Hi there. Today I wanted to again try and go into some of the themes that are coming in the questions and address that. I'm not able to get back to every single question at this stage, and I'm loving all of the response that I'm getting, and I'm getting some beautiful sharing. So please do keep those coming, and don't feel like I'm not reading those. I am working my best to try and get back to each and every one at some stage. But I am pulling some common denominators together and at least trying to do videos on those firstly. And one of the kind of common denominator themes that is coming through in the messages that I'm receiving is this: yes, I hear you. Yes, everything you're saying fits in me. It feels right. I can wear it. I can live with it. I can be with it. It goes into my heart perfectly. Yet I'm still arguing with it. There's something in me that's still arguing with it, even though I know it to be true, if you will. And so many people have explained this differently. That's certainly my paraphrasing a bulk of many messages that I'm getting. When the debunking happens, when the seeker, which each of us is, on this illusion of life, living and journeying, that seeker becomes aware that all the seeking that they have done for whatever number of years really is meaningless. Everyone kind of goes into a story of life review, if you will, and looks back and says, well, that can't be true. I went to see Adyashanti 3 times, and I read a biography of Yogananda, and I went and I saw Tony Parsons, and I read all of Ken Wilber's books, and etc., etc. It goes on, and they can link back to what appears to be a journey of awakening. And you often hear it referred to that, my journey of awakening, or my story of awakening. Even my story of near death is simply that. We have to remember that none of this is real. There is no death, there is no dying, there is no evaporation out of the body into the soil and the ground in a coffin. We have been conditioned to believe all of these things our entire existence here on earth. For me, that was 38 years. That was 38 years of conditioning. I could link back, even in the last 4 years, to all the beautiful teachings and all of the, what I would refer to as gurus along my path. I can see them as separate from me, and I can even create this link in my mind that I am here because of that. I read that book, and that helped me move a little bit further in this awakening process. I went to that training, and that led me further along in my awakening process. And there again becomes this belief and this feeling of this path that you're creating, and that these choices that you are making, which are leading you further and closer to this thing we call enlightenment. When the debunking happens and the seeker hears that there is no guru, there is no death, there is no enlightenment, there is no thing to reach, a few things happen. The internal defenses kick in usually, and an argument begins within the self. That's not true. I can point to reasons I don't believe that. I can lead you to other YouTubes of people I've watched who have had near-death experiences who tell different stories. I can give you a volume of books that'll tell you, Kelly, that everything that you're saying is wrong. And there's all these things that are defensively happening inside. Pew, pew, pew. That are sending off these synapses signals saying, fight this. All of those are the need to be right. And the need to be right is defense. The need to be right and defense comes from a place of resisting what is. All that ever is and ever will be, and I love how Tony Parsons refers to it, whether you call it consciousness, universe, God, I love what he refers to it as aliveness. We are all part of that. And in that, there's no need to know any of these little mini creations that have formed from that, because I am all of it. The mind wants to linearly create questions around this. I've had a few people say, well, Kelly, maybe your experience was this segment, and maybe there were veils and you weren't seeing other segments of the other side, or however you want to refer to it. And so I've watched all these YouTubes, and other people who have had near-death experiences state it differently, and they believe in free will, and they blah blah blah, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. Well, two things I say to this. Number one, I don't need to be right. I've said that in every one of my videos. There's no me here doing this. There's no need to be right. I'm sharing experientially from the perspective of the person sitting in this chair who is the apparent story of Kelly. That's all I can do. I don't need to go out and listen to other near-death experiences to somehow feel valid or incorrect in mine. That is a thought that there is a choice in this. Certainly I can go watch those, and in doing so, formulate maybe fears or resistance to my own experience or whatever could happen, or maybe an adoption of what someone else is teaching. I choose not to do that. That also doesn't mean that I choose you to watch this and grab onto everything I say and make it a new religion. We are all aliveness. We are all the universe. We are all experience. We've always been that. The whiteness that is always was on the whiteboard. That continues eternally, and it is our truth. We are all of it. There's nothing lacking in that. There's nothing lacking in that. The outward appearance of incarnation into this physical vessel, which is here for experience, immediately looks at everything in duality. The mind wants to trigger defense and thoughts and analyze and look at things and try and attribute them to something and link things, and that's what the mind does. The mind gets busy. If it devastates a person to hear, if I use myself as an example, if it devastated me to hear that 38 years of my life believing that all of those things were leading up to here, and that I had choices along the whole path, if hearing that was meaningless, hearing that held no meaning at all, devastated me, then I'm very much in a belief system that I can do things wrong, that this can somehow be wrong. It goes back to thinking that there's sin and there's improper choices, and that there's things that I should have done differently. And I just don't hold those truths in my backpack of life anymore. I just don't. Now, that's not to say that they don't pop up in my experience. I would be lying if I didn't say that. Something happens, and in my experience, the thought comes. Again, I do not create those. The thought comes that this should not be happening. So let's use this experientially and apply it so that it makes sense. I'm sitting here in my living room recording this video, and a big crater falls through my ceiling. And instantly in that moment, a thought arises, this should not be happening. I would be lying to you if I said that that still doesn't happen in my experience. Absolutely. What's changed for me is that I don't believe it anymore. I may even go into the story for a few moments, but I don't believe it anymore. I'm aware that I'm in the story. I see myself going into it. I can even say to other people, I'm in my story right now. Leave me alone. I'm in my story. I'm lying to myself right now. I can even say that. I can joke about it. I can be angry with it. I can say, hey guys, I'm disappearing for a couple of days. I'm in a story. But I'm aware that it's happening. My perspective about it has changed. That boulder has come through my living room ceiling, laying on my floor. I'm in a story that this shouldn't be happening. I'm in a story that I have a choice here. I may even go into a story that, oh, I should have bought that extra life protection, or I should have bought that extra home policy. Or I can go into a story that I should have moved last month when I thought about it. I mean, there's so many things that the human being and the mind want to do. They want to go into the story. I assure you that the thoughts that are dropping are just as unplanned for you. You could not have planned the thoughts as that boulder was. You don't create the thoughts. But they still come. This aliveness of all that is, universe, God, however you refer to it, you are never separate from anything, as you are in this duality. Go back to that whiteboard presentation I did in the video called Why We Choose to Incarnate. You are all of this. So one of the other interesting questions I had was, if you are all of this, if you're all of this that's appearing right now in this experience, how did you in your near-death experience things that seemed outside of you, like Archangel Gabriel and these beings that you explained that were with you when you did your soul map? How would you have an experience of those if you were bodiless and all the things that you said? It's very hard to explain in human words what is experienced when you're in a non-physical form. It is not that you do not have this existence. It is not that you become this oneness with everything, and so there is no experience knowing other things, if you will. That still very much happens. It's just that you are not separate from what's around you. It's a different vibration or feeling about it. It is not as if I saw Archangel Gabriel outside of me in that experience of being formless. Yes, I could experience this knowing of that. And that's really hard to wrap the mind around. Because even when the story is shared, the mind sees this visualization of this formless Kelly and this separate energy of this Archangel Gabriel, and they are separate from one another, and yet that was not my experience. Yet in putting it in linear words and terms, that is how the mind perceives it, because that's what we experience here. It's as when I spoke about trying to explain colors and smells and things like that on the other side. There's this need to try and tangibly see that. The mind immediately goes to light pink. I had many people write what they thought the light pink meant. which I love. I think it's great. Yet that wasn't my experience. My experience was not that there was this color separate from me. I was the color. It's not that the sounds were separate from me. I was the sounds. The smells were not separate from me. I was all of it. Yet to use human words to portray it requires a linear perspective. Just as though we have this, I'm looking at a clock, we have this time here in this dimension, and that's another thing I want to talk about is dimension. Someone brought that up. We have time here, so that I can say Thursday at 3, I will be there. Tuesday at 1, yep, that's where I'm going. Yet, in the experience of formlessness and not being incarnate, there's no need for that. Everything is happening simultaneously. The mind can't wrap its head around that unless it's had the experience of it or the knowingness of it. That brought up a couple good things that I wanted to talk about, and YouTube has extended my time, so I won't keep this too long, but I do now have the ability to go longer than 15-minute segments. Dimensions were mentioned in one of my videos, and somebody asked about that. Could I go further and elaborate on dimensions? And you hear a lot of talk about the third, the fourth, the fifth dimensions. And yes, linearly, again, we will use these terms. However, my experience is that when we are not formless, there is no need to identify with that language. There's no hierarchical structure. There's no veils. There's no depth. And that, again, will send some people in a frenzy, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of messages on that, which is fine. Someone said to me when I replied in that way, well, maybe you didn't experience that. Maybe the veils were blocking you from seeing other dimensional things or hierarchical things. Maybe in your near-death experience you were, and I'm making words up here, but you were sent to section C of the other side, and there's a section D and an A that you didn't see. And my response to that, again, is going to be the same. The mind wants to make this so complex. It's what we do. We make everything complex, and what I was shown was, in fact, everything is so simple. How do I know that that was not true? Because I was all of it. I was all of it. And in all of it, there is no separation. There is no experience here and a there, and A and a C and a D and a dimension of third, fourth, and fifth. I was all of that. I was all of it. No separation. The mind wants to go there. It wants to create a hierarchy. It wants to say there are angels and there are archangels and there are people like Jesus and the Buddha who are masters, and then there's just average Joes like me who are wandering around the other side, and the mind wants to build all of that because it's what we know here. But it is not the case. There's no hierarchy. There is no dimension. There is no separation. I am all of it. I am Jesus. I am the Buddha. I am Mary. I am all of it. And I'm experiencing that. And you cannot wrap your head around it. The mind can't fathom it. It just can't. It needs to tangibly equate it to what it knows. This is why I explain that people who are psychic can tap into the past and the future. It's not tapping into a time that isn't here. What they're tapping in is to the information that is always going on, that has always been them. So I'm sitting across from Mary, and Mary is asking me something about her life. And in the apparent story of Mary, this psychic person named Kelly is tapping into her past. And all of a sudden, Mary thinks, I can't do that. I wish I could do that. And so many things are happening in that experience. But ultimately, what's happening is that this apparent story of Kelly, who is connected to all that is and remembers this, is simply tapping into Mary, who has always been me. One of the other questions that came up, and then I'm going to wrap up after this, someone had watched the videos that I had done about my near-death experience and meeting Angel 1, 2, and 3. And they had asked why I was calling those folks in the hospital angels that were appearing to me in a physical form and were saying, I see you. And if you haven't watched the videos, you may not understand, but certainly go on the channel and find them because they're quite a relevant part of my story. Again, the mind wants to equate that this physical presence of this old woman in a bed, or this physical presence of this young Asian woman in a bed, or this physical presence of this young woman in the ER who's on drugs, are separate from me, and that they are somehow not able to appear as anything more than what they're appearing as. I'm an illusion. How could they not be? Why did I call them angels? Because to me, there was a presence there that was reminding me to remember that although I had returned to this physical vessel, that everything that I had experienced just moments before was a real and very tangible part of my ongoing experience. I did not leave it behind, unless I believe that. There are many people who have near-death experiences who remember nothing, or they come back and they choose not to share, or they come back and they get it in fragments. It's all perfect the way it's unfolding. Unfolding, appearing as though something is happening. But it's all now. All of it. I think I'll wrap up there. It's a little over 20 minutes, and I know that people are busy, and I see people do videos that last an hour, and I myself have a hard time finding an hour to sit down. So I don't want to do that to anyone. But I hope that this has given some more depth, for lack of a better word, to some of the things that have been shared previously, and again, to align some of the common themes and questions that are coming through. Please do feel free to keep those coming, keep sharing, keep offering your own insights. They're not separate from me, so as I read them and I hear them, I just see them all as very, very beautiful, and I'm touched by each and every one of you, and the apparent story of a separation of you. I really think that's it for right now. I know there's going to be things that are going to pop up as soon as I close this out, but that's why we have the opportunity for more. I send you all a tremendous amount of love, and hope that when you listen to these, it brings you some peace and joy. Some place within you gets calm and knows that you just can't do this wrong. Everything that's happening is perfect the way it is. The boulders that fall in your life that appear to be bad or inappropriate are beautiful. They really are. They're here, they've shown up, and they're to be loved just like anything else. So with that, until next time.